Hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here today with another Agents of Transformation interview, this time with my friends, Shannon Mitchell and Christine Gautreaux. Shannon Mitchell is a Black millennial serial entrepreneur and Amazon best-selling author. She is the founder of Sheila Glow, an all-natural handmade personal products company, and these products are amazing, that helps people with dry skin glow from head to toe. She is a champion for your natural self-care, your business care, and intentional wellness.
Yes.
Christine Gautreaux is a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, Amazon best-selling author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade your self and community care. And yes, she does dance. And together, Shannon and Christine are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast rooted in the 8 dimensions of wellness, and they are the co-founders of the Women Connected in Wisdom community and Connected in Wisdom Press. So they've got a little going on. They uplift women's voices and connect women to their purpose and resources to improve their dimensional wellness. So welcome, Shannon and Christine.
Thank you so much.
I am so excited.
So delighted to be with you, Melody.
Yes.
I just love everything about the podcast, the book, the community. So let's get started by, I want you to tell my community how the two of you, very different women from, very different lived experiences, came together and created Women Connected in Wisdom.
Yes. So you want to start or you want me to start, Christine?
Oh, you go.
Okay. So it is 2023 right now, right? So 5.5 years ago, I was at Victory, a church up in Norcross, and in a small group, and we were having a discussion about it was like one person over was Joe Ventries. You know Dr. Joe Veazey, right, Melody? She's one of our Amazon best-selling authors now. And we had such similar perspectives that people thought we came together. Like, y'all, are y'all friends? Like, no, we're all strangers, right? But not anymore. So we got connected. She invited me to the mastermind that her and Christine were putting together. And I thought about it for a second. I said, am I really gonna meet at Starbucks at 7:30, 8 o'clock on a Monday morning? That's when they were meeting at that time, right? So I decided to go, and Christine was there. I was super impressed with Christine the first time that I met her because she was talking about this electronic notebook. And I love stationery and tools. And I said, what do you mean you don't have to continue to cut down trees? There's a notebook that sends to different places depending on how you want to organize it. So I was excited to be part of this entrepreneurial group, sharing our challenges, sharing resources like this that I had never heard of, right? And I said, more people need to have conversations like this. So we kind of sat with the idea a little bit. And then Christine invited me one day to be a part of podcast. You want to tell the story of how we got to that part?
Sure. So I love that I reeled you in with office supplies. I
Yeah.
always love that part of our origin story because I love office supplies and I'm
I
a big
do.
old nerd about it. So
Yeah.
it's just like makes my heart tickled. So we're having this Monday manifesting
Mhm.
mastermind, and at the time I had another podcast. I had a podcast called Incremental Steps, and it was about environmental wellness. And George Floyd had been killed. And I was talking a lot about racial justice and environmental justice. And at that time, my current podcast host, she wasn't there for it. We were on different levels about it. And she was herself like, she cared about it and she wanted to be, but I think some of her listeners were giving pushback. It was right at the beginning of the racial reckoning. And she was like, you want to talk about this too much on this podcast. And she said, maybe you need a different podcast and a different co-host. And I said, maybe I do. And Shannon and I had been really having these incredible, intense conversations. We are different generations. We are different religious backgrounds. We are different ethnicities. We are different lived experience, like just the whole thing. but we were coming together and just having some deep conversations about wellness and life and how do we do this. And Shannon had said, more people need to hear about these conversations. So when I had this rupture with my previous podcast host, I immediately called Shannon and said, do you want to do a podcast with me? And she said,
Hell yes. Yes, I
I
jumped on it.
this story. I love this story. And having been also in the racial equity world long before George Floyd, long before the pandemic, I know exactly why your co-host was having a hard time because she had
right,
not done her own work.
absolutely.
She had not looked beyond the lens of white supremacy that we are all, whatever background we are, we're all indoctrinated in. And so unless you've done some work, you really can't see what you're looking at.
Mhm.
Right.
And so I'm so thrilled that the two of you got together.
Thank
Right.
you.
And it was Shannon's idea totally to root it in the 8 dimensions of wellness because she had experience in that. And, I had a book already about caregivers and, Still Point, a playbook for caregivers to find ease, time to breathe, and reclaim joy. So very much in that perspective. And she was like, you've done this, I've done this, because she was an RA and used the 8 dimensions of wellness. She's like, what do you think? Like, we came together collaboratively to put the podcast together.
Well, that was the thing, Christine. It wasn't at Kennesaw when I was an RA. It was actually through, um,
Oh, it was that project you were doing.
exactly, it was through consultation. So, Melody, I used to work with an interior designer and an architect, and we were working on a wellness center, and I was going to do the social media, right? And so, doing the research, working on the aesthetic, working on the message and the value that would be offered online, I found out about the 8 dimensions of wellness. And I said, how do I, as a person with a psychology degree, not know about the 8 dimensions of wellness? How is this never brought up? And if I don't know, I'm sure a lot of people don't know, and we all need to know. And so that's how we ended up putting those two together with the self and community care, and then in the 8 dimensions of wellness, because we always need to take care of ourselves and then, help our community in the way that we do.
Right. So let's go over the 8 dimensions of wellness, because this to me is one of the things that sets you apart from other podcasts about self and community care for women.
Thank you so much. Yes,
Mm.
so the 8 dimensions of wellness are emotional and mental is one category. Environmental is a category. That's your environment naturally, but also the one that you occupy, right, Melody? That's what you help all of your clients and your guests with. And then we have intellectual wellness, that's your IQ, and also how you respond to situations, how open you are to new ideas and approaching things differently, right? You have social wellness, we have spiritual wellness, physical wellness, occupational wellness, and I think I'm missing one, financial wellness,
Financial
right?
wellness. Yep.
Boom. And that's all
Yep.
eight. I know I'm throwing up different numbers, but that is all 8 dimensions.
And I just want to note that this model, the wellness model, was originally created by Dr. Peggy Swarbrick in the early 1900s. It comes out of the addiction community. It comes out of like, how do you reclaim your life? And so she did this model. It is used across the nation in universities, medical settings, and more.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. This I have never heard of before. Like you, Shannon, I first heard about the 8 dimensions of wellness on your podcast.
Wow.
So let's talk about give us some information if women want to tune in to the podcast. Um, how do they do that? How do they listen to older episodes? How do they get to play live, which is something I love to do?
I love that question. So if you want to participate with us, right, we go live at 5 every Wednesday at Eastern Standard Time. We stream to LinkedIn. So you can join us from your LinkedIn profile. You can join us from the Facebook profile or YouTube. So if you comment, like Melody said, you want to play with us, we pull up the comments and you can interact with our experts. interact with what we're talking about at that moment. And we do have a good amount of episodes. Last week we recorded episode 122. So if you want to kind of binge on Women Connected in Wisdom, I know some people do that. Or if you have a specific category that you want support in, you can watch all of those episodes. And those live on our YouTube and on the Facebook page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk about that, Shannon, I was thinking about the episode we had, and I'm trying to remember what episode number it was, but we did talking about tough things with Integrative Palliative Institute, and it was in intellectual wellness, but it was talking about palliative care. And it was our expert, Dr. Delia Chiaramonte. I hope I'm getting that name right. Shannon was really good at pronouncing her name.
Yeah, I will have
This
to
is the
see
most challenging thing about podcasting, y'all, is making sure you get the names right. And so, but I was thinking about that episode live. Did you remember, Shannon, we had a grandmother that had
I
not
do.
watched our show before. And I
Yes.
guess she saw us on YouTube or something like that. And she had, it was such a heartfelt question because her grandson had been put in palliative care, and she didn't realize that didn't mean he wasn't going to die. Like palliative
Yeah.
care is separate than hospice care, and it can
Mhm.
just mean support when you have a long-term illness or when you have a
Yes.
diagnosis. And she was terrified, and she was able to ask the doctor right then a question live and get it answered. And you could just tell her whole spirit eased. And it was one
Yeah.
of those moments. We've had a couple of those moments on the podcast that we're like, all right, this is what we're doing it for. We're connecting folks to resources that they might not otherwise have access to. And in that
Yes.
moment, how often do we have instant access to a doctor that's their expertise, right?
Right.
Or sometimes all of these experts that we have that come across, sometimes it's 2 weeks or a month. A couple of them you can reach instantaneously, but sometimes you're getting their assistant or their receptionist. And so this is a way that we connect folks with resources, and almost all of our guests. So one of the things that I love about our podcast is people tell personal stories, they tell stories about their work, and they give resources. So it is very common for our guests to give really cool resources to our listeners, and that they can connect with their work. I know when you were on, Melody, and you were talking about environmental wellness, like you did the same thing. Like you give your knowledge from your heart about how do we do this? Because we love, we don't want just fluff. Yeah,
No.
fluff is nice every once in a while, but we want practical resources that people can get off listening to the podcast and go, or do it while they're listening to the podcast, some of it,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So
Yeah. Now, do you have a newsletter that lets people know what's coming up, and how do people listen to the older episodes?
that's a great question. You want to take it, Shannon?
Sure. Yes, we absolutely have a monthly newsletter that goes out. So all you have to do if you would like to receive it is to become part of the mailing list. You can do that from our website, womenconnectedinwisdom.com. And yes, all of the episodes live on YouTube. And I said Facebook, but Christine, do they live on LinkedIn and everything too?
You can go back. That's a little more challenging. What I
Right.
would say, it kind of depends on what format you want to listen. So in
Mm,
audio, so they are lightly
thank
produced
you.
after we go live, and then they are distributed to all podcast channels.
Mhm.
So, Apple Podcasts, like
Right.
FM
Spotify.
or Spotify, like they're
Mhm.
out there. So wherever
Yes.
you listen to your favorite podcast, you can find us. I will tell folks the best thing to do with any podcast, in addition to our own, is like and subscribe, and then get the notification that it's coming on. It doesn't mean you have to listen to it, but when new episodes come on. And it also helps podcasters. Like, so many times friends and listeners are like, how can we support you? How can we help you? Give us a review. Like
Yeah.
go on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating and a review. And that is huge, because what it does is, these algorithms with everything, then it bumps it up for more people to find us. It is a
Right.
really easy way to support your favorite podcasters.
And I think you said you just finished your 121st,
22nd.
22nd. That's amazing.
And why is that significant to you, Shannon?
So I've been telling Christine Melody that Red Table Talk, one of my favorite shows with Jada Pinkett Smith, got canceled. right? And the whole cancel culture, we could talk about that, but there was this huge thing. I said, no, you can't cancel Jada, right? I hate how they put it over their face. I felt like they were making a statement. But they had 123 episodes. So I said, okay, Christine, we're almost there and
Mm.
we're about to be past that, you know? So when I think about them, I heard Kanye talking about how he wanted a retail space in Atlanta. It's just interesting to me that the things that we're doing, you might say, oh, I don't have what I need or how can I get there? But when you hear people's goals and what they want from their life, we're doing a lot of the stuff people want to do, you know? So I don't know how the ladies felt about their show not being on the channel anymore. And my heart went out to them when I saw they weren't doing it. Hopefully they enjoy it. But I said, okay, now Women Connected in Wisdom can continue to support people having those conversations in a roundtable discussion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. I love that, they were inspiration to me. I'm glad that they were inspiration to you. And,
absolutely.
it takes a lot of commitment
Mhm.
to do something as creative and as, it's like some of my indigenous teachers would say that you have grandmother spider
Mhm.
medicine, that you have this ability to weave this beautiful web that connects these people who wouldn't otherwise know each other,
Yeah.
and to flow resources across that web.
Mhm.
So it's so exciting. So I just want to hear a little bit about some of your favorite episodes, because you've been doing this now, what? It's been 3 years.
Two.
Going on it.
2 years.
Yes.
We're heading towards three. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
So Melody, fun fact, I don't know if you know, but our podcast was supposed to start on January 6th of 2021. Is that correct?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
right? So,
Yes.
that was an infamous day in our United States history.
Mhm.
And we were all set, ready to go live at 5 o'clock that day. And, we had an insurrection in our country. And we called each other. We're like, yeah, we're not going live today. There's more important things going on right now. And, we were paying attention to what was going on in our nation. So we
Yeah.
started the next Wednesday. But we will never forget, because that was the day. And, there's a lot of work that goes into this. So we had been prepping for at least 6 months. We've been
Yeah.
talking about it. We've been prepping it. We've been getting the equipment. So it was
Mm.
just fascinating. It was, yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah, we are in 2013. So this is 10 years ago now. I took my oldest child, my youngest child, and my granddaughter to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. And
Mhm.
when your group gets called up, you take the elevator up to the top floor. And that top floor is one that most people don't spend a lot of time, because it's all the German broadcast news, it's all the
Mhm.
radio station. Now it's all translated, it's all the newspapers that show what was happening in Germany in the 10 years before the Nazis and Hitler took power.
Mm.
And I spent about an hour up there reading everything, listening. And I realized that we are in a time such as this in our country. This is 10 years ago. And now we, of course, see all of this playing out.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I have talked to my community about so much in the last 3 years is how to resource your resilience, because we all have a certain amount of, I think about intellectual, physical, emotional, social, spiritual,
Right.
financial bandwidth, right? We
Mhm.
have this bandwidth, we have this level of resilience and resourcefulness. And when that gets drained out, because we are living in such interesting and chaotic times, we've got to find a way to build our reservoir back up. And
Yes.
that,
Mhm.
honestly, I just want to tell the two of you, that's what you do for me.
Mhm.
That's what you
Thank you.
do for
Mhm.
the rest of us who are involved in the community.
Mm.
So I want to shift a little bit now, and I want you to describe to me, when was the moment that after you had been doing these podcasts that you realized we have a book here.
What would you say, Christine?
Oh, was there a moment? It was
That was
very
my question.
gradual, because what happened is, Shannon and I had often talked about it because it's still a point. And my co-author, Dr. Sheila K. Collins, she was one of our very first guests, right? And she was on episode number 4, and we talked about I think we talked about physical wellness. No, we talked about mental and emotional wellness. And we were talking about self and community care. And Dr. Sheila K. Collins has been a mentor, a friend to me, a retreat sister for, what are we going on now? 26 years. And she was one of the women in my life that held open the door for me. Like, that she said, hey, will you come be a co-author with me? Well, I knew I had a book inside me. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know, and I didn't know what it would mean, right, to become an author. I'd always been a writer. But so many of us have that dream. We think one day, or and so she held open that door, and we published Still Point, and it made a huge difference in my life. Like, it opened doors that I didn't even know I needed to be opened. And it was the book that did it. Like, when you say, oh, I'm an author, you get to speak at places that, you could have amazing ideas, but if you don't have a book that you bring along with you, they're like, okay, when you get a book, right? It's kind of what the attitude is in some places.
Yeah, I've actually heard someone say that your book is the new business card.
Right. And what it is it's kind of like, I think about it sometimes like college degrees. Sometimes it doesn't matter what your degree's in. It's just a matter that you could do the system to get the degree, which is, it's messed up in its own way. And we could have a whole discussion about that. But it's kind of the thing about this book. And so we were talking about offering, our whole goal is to uplift women's voices and to offer them resources. And when we started hearing these incredible stories, we were like, and realizing that almost all of these women were not published. We had these little where we started like, what is?
Right.
And I think one of it started with Shannon, because she's like, oh, I want to write a book. And we're
Yeah,
like,
especially about the 8 dimensions of wellness. And oh, well, we don't have to write it ourselves, right? Especially as business owners, that you don't always have to be the expert. You pull in your team of experts, and that's what
mhm.
we had been doing on the show. So as we started dreaming about it, it did fall in place like that.
And it really just fell in line with our values and what our mission is to uplift. So now we're uplifting women's voices and people who identify as women on the air in audio. Now we're doing it in print. Like,
Yes.
it's just like one of those things that we are like, it's expanding the possibilities.
Mhm.
And then what it does is creates revenue for our authors, because then they can become speakers. They can become, they can show up at conferences and sell books at the back of the room. Like, it's just a way for women to have another source of income and to share their expertise.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there's one other thing about this book that you haven't mentioned. A couple of things actually, and I'm going to mention them. I hope
Okay.
that's okay. But
Yes.
so I had been a published author for some time when you two reached out to me to see if I would be interested in writing a chapter for the first Women Connected in Wisdom book.
Yes.
And my first thought was, I'm too busy. I've got too much going on to be a part of a project like this. And my second thought was, oh, I'm a professional organizer, and I am the one who hauls junk out of people's homes. And I have seen so many compilation books like this not really be worth the paper they're printed on.
Mm.
And so, but then, I got the email, and so I went through it all, and I looked at what was really happening. And I realized, oh, this project is a project of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This project is going to bring people like me who have a little more advantage, who are older, who've been around a while together with younger women of color, and just allow us to work together and collaborate and to lift each other up.
Right.
And that, honestly, that sold me. I didn't even know at that point about the second thing, which is that you both made it so much fun. You made the process so much fun. Honestly, if I had not already published a book, working with the two of you was just so much fun, because at every step of the way, we were having Zoom meetings together with our sisters, getting to know each other, dancing together. I mean, we had a good time. So
Yeah.
I just want to congratulate both of you on not just the beautiful book, that's the end result, but the vision and the process.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
One of the things, and you mentioned it a little bit, but I just want to reiterate, Melody, like this book, I think one of the things I'm most proud about is we have such diversity represented in this book, and we have ages of authors from 20s all the way up to their 80s. So we have a diversity of age, we have a diversity of ethnicities, we have a diversity of religious backgrounds. Like, it is truly, like you said, and it's community building. So
Yes.
the way, and it is also resource building, because throughout the process, what we do at Connected Women Press is we teach people, like we teach about how do you make a speaker one sheet? How do you book a speaking gig? How do you, things that folks charge, honestly, $20,000 for. And
Right.
we want it to be accessible, and we want it to be where we are learning together and growing together. Because Shannon and I
Yes.
don't pretend that we know everything. Like, there are so, like, we'll bring in experts, or we will say we don't know, but we'll find out. But we
Right.
do have experience from previous publishing that we bring to the table, and from being speakers, and from being workshop leaders and facilitators. And if it is, it can be a hobby. It can be something that you're like, oh, I've always wanted to do this, and I'm going to check it off. And because we have authors in our book, that was it.
Right.
And then we have authors that are making it their careers. And so it's like, where do you want it to be? It depends on what you want to learn and know and go. But it has, to me, it has unlimited possibilities, especially
Absolutely.
because you are getting connected to women all over the world. Like, in our first book, we had women from Canada, women from all over the United States. This book, you want to tell them about the next volume, Shannon? I know
Yes.
this is really
Yes.
exciting.
I love it. Now we're in Alexandria, Egypt, right? And
Mhm.
still all over the country. So we're just continuing to hit the places where we haven't hit with the book, but we know that we have downloads from the podcast, and continuing to uplift those stories.
And we need to explore this a little more, but like, Melody, recently we've been trending in Indonesia, in India.
Yes.
It is really interesting, and we're not sure the why, except, I mean, we have some theories, right? That what we talk about is universal
Mhm.
to women and people who identify as women all over the world. And the part about how do we do this while juggling families and community care and work and laundry, and like, things just are universal. Like, those dishes still need to be washed at the end of the day, right?
Yes.
And so I think that you were asking about favorite episodes, and Shannon, help me on this one if you can. But
Absolutely.
Jylon's episode, our first
Mhm.
episode, where we had somebody from Alexandria, Egypt on the podcast, and she was up at 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning
Yes,
in
she
order to
was.
be on our podcast. It was just such an honor. And she is a feminist, um, writer, playwright. She was
Poet.
so excited
Yeah.
to editors. We've now brought her onto our Women Connecting Wisdom editing team because she's so
Yes.
fabulous. And she was so delighted to get connected. And it is just, and then she showed up at our first annual
Conference.
Women Connecting Wisdom conference and
For
stayed
her.
up. I think you probably
Yes.
met her, Melody, because
I
you were a
remember.
speaker at the conference. And you know, it is just the power of connection and the power of knowing that you're not alone, right?
Right.
That you might feel alone, but you can reach out. Like, you can connect with us live. You can find us when we go to book signings or in the community. Like, there's ways that we can be connected, and it is authentic connection. I mean, we have built friendships with people we've never met in person before.
Right. I forget that we haven't met in person. You know, we're about to go see Shannon. I'm like, we've never been in the same room because we're always like this. I feel like we're in the same room, you know, but
Right.
yeah, it's been amazing.
Right. It has been really powerful. And I want to share one other story because this was the moment that I said to Shannon, okay, we can be done. I know we're not done, but I think, we're doing the work we have come to do. We were
Right.
doing a live webinar, and it was about the 8 dimensions of wellness. And we had asked one of our regular listeners to come on and give a testimonial. And Brandy is a listener in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I have met her through Interplay before. And so I know her, but I also just was really like, she shows up on the regular on Wednesdays and leaves
Yes, she
comments and,
does.
and interacting with us, and really a valued member of this community. And we asked her to come on and just say a little something about the podcast because we knew she listened all the time. She comes on and she says, she made me cry on air. She comes on and she says, she lost hearing in one ear when she was 8. She lost hearing in the second ear a couple of years ago and just got new cochlear implants. And she relearned how to hear and talk by watching Women Connected in Wisdom, because we have the subtitles, and she went from platform to platform to make sure she was hearing things correctly. I like, even as I say it, it gives me chill. And I am just
Still.
like,
Right.
there are times, I mean, we love what we do. And but y'all, it's a lot of work. Like, we show up every week. I mean, we have started building in more breaks because we're practicing what we preach, but it's a lot of work. And there's some days like, you're like, okay, I know we're on purpose, but really? Like, this is a lot. And then
Yeah.
you hear stories like that, and you're like, okay, right? We never
Yes.
know when we are doing our heart's work and our purpose, whose lives we're transforming.
Yes.
Like, we
And
just don't know.
yes. And for me, when we talk about resources, that is what I go to as well. Just your voice. You know, when we talk about your voice and uplifting voices, I think about the stories, I think about the resources and the experiences, but literally your voice can help somebody, you know? So
Mhm.
that's been what's been most exciting about it for me. And I love all of our episodes. One of my favorite is our first, right? Because like Christine said, we did move it. And so we had been working for 6 months. We're working to get to the podcast, and we're finally here, and we have to wait. And here goes finally the first episode, right? And our first guest was Joe Ventries, which was right on, I feel like right in alignment with the way that everything has happened. She's the reason I met Christine, right? Managing her music release. She is from Mississippi, and one of her goals, in addition to being an author, was to release her music. And so I managed her music release. And at that meeting, at that event, is where I met Farrell. And you know Farrell, Melody, my partner, who is our photographer and everything. He's our audiobook editor for our audiobooks now with Connected and Wisdom Press. And so I credit Joe. Of course, you know, God has everything fall in place, but Joe was the reason all of these things are connected to me right now. So Women Connected in Wisdom is how it's been happening this whole time.
Wow. Wow. Shannon, Shannon, that is an inspiring story.
Mhm.
Thank
Mhm.
you. I love it. And
And
go ahead, Christine.
I was just thinking about, Melody, what you said about the challenging times we live in
Mhm.
and how intense things have been. And even with all the work aspects of Women Connected Wisdom, I don't think either Shannon or I would be as happy, as well resourced, as just healthy without this community, without our Women Connected in Wisdom, because they have gotten us. I mean, this community we've had weddings, we've had births, we've had deaths, I mean, we are chosen family, and it is powerful. And if we don't have the resource or know somebody, we know somebody that knows somebody. And that's that power of community. When somebody has a need or an ask, and we say, who do we know?
Right.
And we usually know somebody that's a really
Right.
powerful, strong woman who will take care of it, right? Whether it's your tax needs or whether it's your physical needs, or we know somebody that we're going to plug in because that's, you were talking about grandmother spider medicine, like that web just keeps growing and growing and growing, and we can tug on that web just really gently, and somebody's going to show up, and it's
Right.
powerful.
Yeah.
Wow. So I know that volume 2 is coming
Yes.
out soon, Women Connected in Wisdom. Let's all hold up our books.
Oh, our cute
Volume
little
1.
Melody, we got to get you your #1 Amazon best-selling sticker.
Actually, I've got them on the books in the closet that I sell. This is the one I use when I'm doing podcasts.
Mhm.
Gotta put it on there too. But yes, so because of the fun way that the two of you managed this project, and because we had all these very excited, connected women as authors, we shared it with our communities, and our book went to Amazon bestseller status in 4 hours.
Less
Yes.
than 4 hours in 3 categories. It was
Yes.
powerful. And the thing to note about that is our publisher at the time, because we had not created our publishing company yet at that time. The publisher at the time said to us, oh, Amazon is kind of being glitchy. Don't be disappointed if it takes a couple of days. And we were like, we got this.
Right.
It was amazing. It
It
was so
was
much
fun,
Yes,
right?
It was
It was
fun.
fun. And that's part of our goal too, is that let's have some fun. Let's do it in joy. Let's do it in the 8 dimensions of wellness. Let's play. Let's play with ease and joy and laughter. And it doesn't mean there's not work. I mean,
Right.
we know as women and people who identify as women, there's work, right? It doesn't stop. But we can do it with song and dance and laughter and joy and
Yes.
community. And community just makes it better to me.
It
Yes,
does.
and one of the fun things when this book came out and I got to read my co-author sister's chapters, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm working with such a range of clients right now, but there is a chapter in this book for every one of them
Mhm.
because of the difference in perspective.
Right.
So I know that volume 2 is coming out soon.
Yes.
And then hopefully there will be another conference like there was last fall.
There is.
Yes.
Tell me what your plans are.
So this year, so the first volume had 18 authors in it. The second volume has 12 authors in it. And this year we're going to do the conference on October 27th and the 28th. So that's a Friday and Saturday. So depending on your schedule, hopefully you can come to both days. If not, hopefully at least one, right? And if you would like the recordings, we send those out with our VIP packages through the email.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yes.
And talk to me about your long-term plans for creating a way for community to have more interaction.
Absolutely.
Mm.
So when we talk about community, what just came up for me that I don't always talk about is the separation from my mom for 12 years, right? Because this has always been necessary for me. I always had to ask women questions and know that I might not have the answer. And so because I know that that's been so helpful for me with the 8 dimensions of wellness, you know that in your area, you might find women, but they might not have expertise in all these different areas. So going virtual, being in community with you ladies has filled that in for me, like Christine said. And so it's not just a few months doing the book or a podcast episode here and there. We really want to do life together, right? Do business together. And with so many women having businesses, we know that a lot of times they don't have what Christine and I have in business partners. We're solopreneurs, right? Trying to do all the different things and all the different facets with all the different hats. And so how can we support you in that? So the first level is going to be connected in wellness. That's the 8 dimensions of wellness that we talked about, right? Because first, as an individual and as a business owner, if you're not okay, your business stops. We know that the business is second to you being okay, no matter how many businesses you have. So we're going to support you in wellness, right? We're going to have our authors who have spoken at the conference and been on our podcast as guests come and teach classes that they have expertise in to support them in whatever dimension of wellness they would like to grow in and they see the opportunities in. And then the second level is connected in business, because again, we are in business and there are challenges and things that you might not know how to do, or things that you don't want to pay $3,500 to do. You would rather body double, right? And use some different tools, some different automations and get it together. But sometimes you need somebody in the room to study with you to, okay, tell you what the answer to that one question that you've been having challenges getting over. So that's what we do. Christine mentioned the speaker one sheet. When I was in Manifestation Mondays at the beginning, I didn't know what a speaker one sheet was. They were like, oh, it's like a resume for a speaker. I said, that makes perfect sense, right? So coming together to do those things is what we do in that level. And then the higher level is connected in action. At the end of every podcast, we talk about wisdom in action, right? What are we actually doing? Because we know to be wise is not just to have the knowledge and be knowledgeable. It's about putting what you know in action and actually taking the steps to see the change. So there we're going to have a mastermind where we get together, do more of the body doubling, and you will have access to the wellness classes. You'll have access to the business classes. So you do those two levels in whatever capacity you need support in. And then we'll put in action and make sure that you are actually reaching your goals together.
And
Wow.
I just want to add in on that third level, you also get a monthly coaching call with either Shannon or myself. So you get more one-on-one time. So all these levels Shannon is describing is our way to go deeper through our mighty
Right.
networks, Women Connected in Wisdom community. And
Yes.
that is, it is a community of women who are really going to be intentional. And so we're going to go deeper together, and we're going to have a resource library where people can, it's at their fingertips. So that, I think it's going to be really awesome. And we right now in our community are volume 1 and volume 2 authors. And we're going to be opening up the community after the conference. So
Yes.
after October 27th and 28th, we're going to be opening up the Mighty Network community to folks that want to come and join us. So
Yeah.
What a model. What an amazing model. I'm
Thank
just
you.
thrilled. And thank you for making this community available to me as an author. And I'm thrilled
Yes.
that we're opening it up in October,
right.
and that women can join and take part in the resources there.
Yes.
And just, I really experience this as part of a fulfillment of prophecy,
Mm.
that I don't know that there are some different ways to take this, but many years ago the Dalai Lama said the world will be saved by the Western woman. Now, I don't love the idea of this white savior. Like, I just don't love that.
Mm.
And I recognize that women in the West have more privilege. We have more time, we have more energy, even during these chaotic times, than many women around the world. And when we come together and resource ourselves like this, especially when you mention community in action, I'm like, oh, holy moly, what can
Yes.
we accomplish
A
when
lot.
we are so well resourced? What can we accomplish for our own health, for the health of
Yes.
our communities, and for the health of others in the country that we may not ever be neighbors with, but
Right.
we can see that they're struggling because of climate related events or because of political things. We can
Right.
be a resource. And I just see this as something just absolutely profound. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for your work in the world.
We are
Absolutely.
grateful. We are grateful. Even telling the story again, really, it brings such joy to my heart, because it is a journey, right? And it is a journey, and it is we could probably stay on for hours and tell you just more and more stories. And I was just thinking, as we're talking, Shannon, we probably ought to start collecting those somewhere.
That's a good point.
um, and when you go to Amazon to buy the book, or wherever you buy the book from, we have how many current testimonials right now, Shannon? Like 52 or 54?
51.
51. I knew it was up in the 50s. And
Yeah.
when you read the testimonials, like, it brings tears to my eyes, because it's saying exactly the same thing. And, we didn't say this at the beginning, but, Shannon and I really went back and forth, because we really believe in inclusion. So we were like, are we making it women connected? Like, is it
Right.
just women? Like, and we know we're going to get some pushback on that, right? But what we realized is women are still discriminated against. Women still don't have as big of a platform and as much of a voice in this country. And as we've seen in the last year, especially in the United States, right? Our rights are in danger. So we were like, yes, we are sticking with women and people who identify as women. And that's what it's about, that we can change the world together. It's a small mission, changing the world.
Right.
It's a small mission, but someone's got to do it.
Right?
Someone's got to
Shannon,
do
what
it.
were you going to say?
Yeah. And I had the conversation again recently to Christine about a gentleman that wanted to be on. And I said, that's why also we created Connected in Wisdom Press, right? Because we can absolutely be connected in wisdom to everybody. But for the podcast, a lot of times women are still muted. So we will take up 100% of the room. And I said, if I want to take a deep breath in, just breathe and not say anything, we will do that too, because it's about the woman who needs the resource getting the experience and the real life. This is how I did it. So even though we honor men and their existence is beautiful, necessary, we honor the space that everybody takes up, right? We respect life. But here, if we are offering resources to women, absolutely, we're going to make sure that they're as tailored as possible, as relevant as possible. And I told him that he could write a book with us if he was interested.
Well, and we have male listeners, absolutely, and they'll
Absolutely.
check in, and they're
And
loving
it's
the
great.
resources, right? Because the
Yes,
resources are universal.
they
But
are.
I love the way you said it, Shannon, that women are still being muted.
Yes.
And, especially our Black and Brown sisters, our Indigenous sisters. And so we got to do everything we can to lift up their voices.
Absolutely.
And we're really
Yes.
intentional about that.
That's
Yes.
what makes your collaboration and your podcast and your book and your conference, that's what makes this Women Connected in Wisdom unique, because you have created a vision of bringing together in an equitable way. I can't count how many times there's, several people that I have met through Women Connected in Wisdom. One is Cecile Armstrong. Another is Coach Co. I love these
Yes.
women. I follow them on social media. We are in collaboration with each other, and it just is so expansive to recognize that, I get to participate in creating this sort of level place where we all get to be lifted up together. It's genius. What you've done,
Thank you.
what you've created is absolutely genius.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I love what you said earlier about the fun too. Christine is amazing at that, including the laughter, including the movement and the deep breath. And that's something I've appreciated too, Christine, is the interplay. At the beginning, we get there, and no matter what's going on, we've talked about how chaotic things have been and things that people have been going through. We say, okay, we know that. We see you. We're all here with you, holding space, right? Let's take a deep breath. Let's dance a little bit, and then we work. And I think that has helped, and when I moved from working for other people to working for myself, one of my things is I want to have fun with everything I'm doing. We're going to work hard. We're going to make money. We're going to collaborate. But if I can't laugh, if we can't joke, then something's missing.
Yes, I love this. I love this. Every single time I participate with the two of you, my whole body is involved, and I love this. So thank you both so much for being willing to come and share how the two of you are agents for transformation.
Yes.
I see my entire life from the beginning. The only thing that helps me make sense of everything that's happened in my life is that I chose to come here to participate in the shift that's happening on our planet from patriarchy to partnership.
Mm.
And we are in challenging times. We are looking at something I call plug, patriarchy's last ugly gasp. And
Mm.
I don't know if I'm going to, move into the next life we're still in this plug. But I know that we're moving toward partnership with the land, with Mother Earth, with our loved ones, with our communities, between races. Like, we are moving towards partnership. And that's what I want to be a part of. And that's what the two of you embody so beautifully. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us, Melanie. Grateful
Yes.
to be in connection.
Oh, me too.